Hello and good morning, guys, and welcome back to Millau. Today we are going to do a block that has been a big thorn in my side for the longest time. This triangle shape here. I've already practice built this like 3 or 4 times with different results, and I've struggled so much to figure out what goes here, to be honest. Preferably I wouldn't want to do the practice builds, but I've had to resort to it now. This has been like my writer's block, I guess you could say, in a way. And but I have a plan. I have a plan finally, and I think it's gonna work. So we are going to do that. But before that, I'm gonna talk about a few things I've done off camera, or like off video, I guess, since then, because I've done a few changes. Like I eagle-eyed of you might recognize this area here not being a park, and also there's like a few added commercial here since the last episode. This is all like basically preparation for this new block we're creating now. So we have a pedestrian connection going in here. It's gonna be nice. We have also prepared, if I remember what I prepared. Yes, I've also changed a thing in the industrial area here, just this morning. This used to be the warehouse with the rail entrance asset, but for some reason I couldn't get that to work. It just didn't work, and I kind of need this to do things, and I think we're gonna try to make it a cargo train station. This is the cargo train station from the airports DLC. You can place it outside of airports. It works fine, and hopefully that's gonna work out and give us like some raw materials, because these guys are complaining about it. We'll see about that. Another thing I have changed, but you might have also seen this in the short tutorial video I released, where I replaced or upgraded the bridge, the main road bridge in Rayon, with this nice arch underneath. There's a separate video for that. Like, it's 3 minutes long, or 1 minute if you want to watch the short version of it instead. But I want to do more of those kinds of bridges, and especially now that we're getting into the main sort of starting tile, I guess, or the main area of the town, where there's going to be plenty of more bridges over the river. So just wanted to show that. I don't know, maybe this bridge could be... Nah, I think this bridge is a little bit complicated to upgrade, in that style anyway. So the plan is, as I said, this area here. But before I can get started on that, there's another issue that's been plaguing me, and I've been struggling to actually make this episode about that instead. It's these roads here. These roads are no longer going to be... I mean, now they're the national highway roads, high speed. They work perfectly fine for the map, but now that this part here is going to be a very central, or pretty urbanized area, like this is going to be in the middle of a city. I don't want cars driving super high speed here without any possibility to sort of cross over for pedestrians, stuff like that. So we're going to change a few of these out for avenues, which is going to lead us to have to change the roundabout yet again. This roundabout and this roundabout. And I'm also going to switch out this bridge here. I'm thinking we might also update this roundabout a little bit, but there's going to be like a few changes here. There's going to be more to come in the city, but yeah, that's going to be the first part, so let's just hop right into that. Hello, I am back from a few days later, and or to be honest, probably a week or so. This video, I was so scared of editing this because of how much footage I had got of so little building. We only build like a few roundabouts, but I think I eventually turned up, like, I just managed to cut it down to a reasonable size anyway. But anyway, it feels so good to be back and looking at this, and I
yeah, I wish I could just do more of Millau, to be honest. Like this is my happy place right now, to be honest. Also, roundabouts are one of my happy things, and I get to do a lot of roundabouts in this part. So I kind of I struggled so much with the roundabouts though. It's probably because I try to do very complex styles of roundabouts. We'll get to it in a bit. This is the easiest, one of the easier roundabouts, I would say. I'm making. This one just has roads and it has paths on the sides of it. So I'm using all the mods at our disposal. Using a network multi-tool to remove the nodes, extra nodes. I'm using a node controller to widen and make the roads thinner and create offsets and create this huge corner offset that makes the turns smoother, basically. So, and then of course also IMT, because we can't not use IMT. But I cut out a lot of it. I cut out most of it based on, like, I guess, experiences from the past, but I just do this for way too long otherwise. So, but you'll see a little bit of it. This is one of those kinds of roundabouts that's super easy to make with the mods because of the corner offset feature in Node Controller and IMT, I suppose, because you don't have to create like a separate segment for entering and exiting the roundabout. The vanilla way to make a functional, better looking roundabouts involves usually like a separate segment for entering and a separate segment for exiting, and we'll get to that kind of roundabout in a short bit. So, but this one is turning out pretty nicely. I'm using TMP as well, I should say, to reduce the speed limits and like set up proper roundabout rules, like exit the blocked junction, lane connector stuff, so that they turn the expected way. But the problem with using highway roads is that they don't have any sidewalks by default, so I have to add sidewalks separately as pedestrian paths. But I think that's a worthwhile effort. Here I'm just making an extra, I guess, spur or like road going into this block, which I literally thought I was going to be able to do this block today, but as you might guess by now, it's not gonna happen. The roundabouts consumed me this time around. But this roundabout is pretty much done, the first one. So now I go ahead and do something I should have done just instantly when I upgraded these roads. Replace the trees with those generic pines, which I think look really good here. So this is going to be the main entrance road to the new triangle-shaped neighborhood, and also it's going to access into the sort of center of the town on the other side. It's going to be like I guess the main access road. You could think of it as a service interchange, whereas the roundabouts are more like system interchanges. But of course they're not either of these things. But the roundabouts are connecting the main arterials, the main roads, whereas these roads between the roundabouts connect into the actual neighborhoods themselves. So here I'm going ahead and just adding one of those IMT tram stops. We're gonna copy and paste it over from the other one. IMT tram stops is such a fun. I absolutely love IMT tram stops. Yeah, I probably should have started talking about how that neighborhood is not gonna happen. I'll probably just add some text comment about it so that you don't get your hopes up on it. It will be the next episode though. It's going to happen. It has to happen soon. I've already test built it a few times by now. Like it's so far gone. It just cannot. The wheels are already in motion. So, and here, like, I'm copying in this IMT tram stop and connecting it with pedestrian paths. So it basically becomes functional. It doesn't need anything else to function. So super neat trick. And now we're moving on to the main struggle of this episode. And I should have known, when you look at this roundabout, you look and you see there's like this tram line going diagonally through it. And that's the main reason nothing that I thought was going to work is going to work here. Once again, I cut out so much of it, so you won't have to like see me struggle with it, which is probably good, because it would sort of give you some kind of brain damage, I'm pretty sure. There's just so much back and forth. I'm struggling with node controller so much, because every time I do node controller and then move something, it sort of messes everything up, and I have to reset and then set it up again, and it just goes on like that for at least a few hours. So I wanted to spare you from that. So one of the reasons why the tram track makes it so complicated is I've noticed if I don't use those where the tram crosses the roundabout, if I don't use those as also the nodes where you enter and exit the roundabout, it sometimes creates this weird texture glitch. Maybe you could call it a sea fighting thing, where the texture of the pavement actually overlaps the tram tracks, and I don't like that. I want the tram tracks to be like clearly defined going through. So after many tries and many tests of other versions, this common node approach is the way to go. I feel a little bit sorry for you as well. Just this episode that was supposed to be about city planning and city building and all this mixed use development I was planning to do. I was like super excited, and then it's just going to be infrastructure and roads, and there's not a single DDI even. So that's I feel a little bit sorry for you. I did do a DDI build in my City Skylines 2 video though, so if you really want, if you're really desperate, I mean, if you, that's basically why it's on my mind. So that video is available at this point in time. Yeah, you can see every time I move something with Move It, it kind of messes up the node controller stuff. So I think this is one of those things that the old node controller did better, just slightly better, slightly more capable and at dealing with that. But you know what? That's like the main sort of side plot of this series, is just like talking about the old versus the new node controller. And at some point, like, we just need to move on from that and talk about what's going on here. I'm upgrading this road here with a very nice bridge from the Bridges and Piers CCP, the Armesto CCP. And I'm super excited because all these sort of network upgrades, the main purpose of them is to make this map was built as a map you could do anything on, but the networks are set up in a way such as like to work as outside connections. Like they are a high traffic, high speed network that's really gonna sort of bite us if we're trying to build a city around it. Like we have no sidewalks, we have way too fast cars driving. We need to really make it much more dedicated for the dense city we plan to have growing up around this, or town, I suppose, maybe city. I don't know if it would be actually characterized as a city, but we need to change the infrastructure because it won't fit the future, and that's something I realized too late. Maybe all of this, maybe you would prefer like me not even making a video about this and just sort of, oh yeah, I upgraded this stuff. Here's how it turned out. Let me know if that's fine, if I can do that. I mean, also let me know if you would want to see, like, I guess, live streams of this. I feel like maybe the live stream format could work better for the tedious grinding tasks. Sometimes it's also really helpful to get like input directly, like about stuff, and I sometimes feel more creative when doing so. So let me know if that's something you would want or something you would absolutely not want. Yeah. Meanwhile, the roundabout is taking shape, and it is starting to look better. So much node controller work, and still quite a bit to go, I think, but it's getting there. Something you also might notice is that the cars, how they're using the roundabout is not ideal. Like you can see definitely here, like the lines. It's usually a sign if IMT lines don't align with the, I guess, with how the road mesh looks, then you need to sort of change something. And here I'm figuring out that it maybe was a bit too aggressive with node controllering, so reducing the corner offset helps a little bit, but then that also kind of causes other problems. So it's a like large back and forth still to go until I can find something that I'm like super satisfied with and happy with. But the IMT work has begun at least, so that's nice. I'm doing these dashed lines that I found in France. I've also like been a complete nerd and measured the distance between these. Like these dashes are basically boxes. They're like some kind of box dash, and I've measured the distance in satellite view on Google Maps, and I think I have a pretty similar sort of dash style as they have in real life in France. When I started this map, I actually thought, I was kind of certain that I was going to use shark teeth markings for like giveaway signs, or giveaway markings, I guess. But I found that they don't actually use them that much in France, so I switched it up, and yeah, we get these box markings instead, and I'm liking them. They're pretty flexible. They're easier to sort of use in situations where like the shark teeth markings, like those triangles, where they don't make as much sense. So I'm also making like the solid line just before the dash, the sort of the giveaway line, so that you're not supposed to switch lanes just before the junction. I don't know if that's based in reality in France particularly, but it's something I see a lot here, so I just did that. You can also see there's 2 lanes going into the roundabout, and there's 1 lane going out, like this sort of asymmetry, and the TMPE work here, perfect timing for once, sort of symbolizes really why that makes a lot of sense. So the roundabout is sort of complete. That's pretty nice. Yeah, and now starts the building of path. I realize, you know what? We need to really have a much better path system around this roundabout. Like, this is going to be like the main, in many ways, a main focal point, very, very much when it comes to the traffic in the city. And I will look at this so much. It's such a unique place with a tram going through a roundabout like that. So I decide to, like, you know what, we're gonna go crazy with paths here and make it look as pretty as we possibly can. So in a different world, I might have done lighter detailing, like just adding paths out on the sides outside, like we did with the first roundabout. But in this case, we're going to do a full path network, and I cut out a bit of it as well later on, but I think I show it a bit better than yeah, I show most of it anyway. There are, however, I redesigned the tram station quite a bit off camera, so that's going to look a little bit different, and basically giving the tram a crosswalk directly over the road instead of just relying on the underpass, because I think it kind of is a little bit disincentivizing to use the tram if you have to go how do you say it? Like if you have to go, like, oh, I can see the tram. It's there. It's just on the other side of the road, and we just have to go into the tunnel. I don't mind adding a crosswalk actually. So there will still be a pedestrian tunnel that connects to it, but it's there is a more convenient direct connection if you prefer to use that, I guess. I am using Parklife propless paths for these path networks. Basically, these, I guess you could almost call them sidewalks, but they're not sidewalks because they're sort of offset from the road. But I pretend, in my imagination, these are also bike paths. And bicyclists in Cities Skylines 1 will still use these as bike paths. So we're pretty much both a combined path system. I'm using node controller to make them thinner to like the 60% stretch value, which I think looks better. And I've been doing it pretty consistently throughout this build, so it's one of those things that just keeps, I don't know, keeps the kind of immersion of there being some kind of standard. And here I am creating a first crosswalk over the tram track, and I realize, you know what? I think I have a IMT crosswalk somewhere. So I go and look it up. I have it over here and just copy paste it. This is one of those things just so good with IMT. A copy paste trick that Will CS first taught me a long time ago. And it's just like so nice because you don't really need to do anything like really more than once, and then you can just copy paste it. So there are often a lot of different types of junctions out there, so you're still gonna have to do a lot of work, but once you've done it once, you don't have to, theoretically at least, you don't have to do it again. So, and here I'm aligning the paths with the crosswalks, and just to make it look good, and also aligning, this is important, I'm also aligning the crosswalk of the tram road with the crosswalk of the avenue, so, or the main road. So you don't have to go like, oh, like 5 meters to the right and then 5 meters to the left. I don't know, this is like just things that bother me so much in real life that I tend to take that into City Skylines as well. Maybe I'm overthinking it some cases. I know that in real life they also sometimes really, I mean, they obviously, otherwise I wouldn't be annoyed by it, but they really make you sort of work hard for just walking around as a pedestrian. So, but not in my city. I want this to be a relatively good city, a relatively based or utopian city, I guess. I don't know really, to be honest. This is a big roundabout. This is a big junction. It takes up a lot of space. This could probably have been done a lot better and more efficiently, but this is probably how it's going to be. I don't dare say many other projects are final, but at this point this roundabout is probably going to be pretty final. It's just so much thought and so much work went into it, so I can't at this point in time at least like believe or like imagine how I would add anything to it. But I'll probably, just because I've said that right now, I'm probably gonna have to like eat up those words, and I'm gonna change my mind later. So yeah, here I'm using a normal pedestrian path trying to fill in the pavement and realize, oh, I have surface paint underneath here, but I could have done this with IMT as well. I probably should. There's so many things, should have, could have. But it is also important because it does provide a functional connection between the road and the tram road. So we kind of do need it. I want this all to not just be decorational, by the way. This needs to be functional. Everything here should work, like including the crosswalks. I don't want people just walking across a tram without any sort of collision avoidance. I want them to, at least ideally, have to stop and wait for trams when crossing the road. So that's why I go into great lengths to not sort of just have the paths go over the tram lines, and make sure it ends where it ends. And here I'm connecting the paths with a path that I drew out underneath the bridge that connects to the neighborhood, the what's it called, the Rocade-sur-Tarn neighborhood. And I'm thinking this will probably go into town at some point, or yeah, it's probably gonna connect to the bigger, or sort of the main path or biking network. It's already very well situated on the waterfront, like to turn into some kind of key eventually when we get like into the more denser parts. So that's pretty exciting, and I'm glad I connected it up with the roundabout as well. So of course these paths might change a little bit when we know what we want to build here, if there's going to be parks, if there's going to be whatever, but at least for now it's connected and it looks good. Just dragging out the segment ends, or the segments a little bit to make it look a little bit more completed, and also adding some bushes. And I think actually this is pretty close to getting relatively close to where the video ends, guys, and I need to look ahead. Oh yeah, it is. For me, a shorter one, not with what we built though. I don't remember if I actually showed the third roundabout. Maybe I didn't. There's 3 roundabouts. You'll see it in the cinematics otherwise. If you liked this video, please consider liking and subscribing, and yeah. I have a few more seconds, so might as well. You know what? I don't have anything else to say. I'm sorry, guys. I'll see you guys next time.